So seeing as it's too hot to ride today, I thought it would be a good opportunity to do a bit of a bike check and review. It's been a month now out riding on this. So just for those of you who didn't follow the build itself, start at the front. Got the RockShox Lyric, that's 170mm. And the rear is a Monarch Plus 158 rear travel on an XL frame. Up on the bars, got some Code RSCs. Ergon grips, nuke proof stem and bars, 780 wide. Headsets are Cane Creek. The dropper, it's a Bike Yoke Revive 185mm. And then a full GX drivetrain. And then we got the Flow Mark 3s on the rear with some Maxxis tyres, so the 2.5 double down Aggressor and the 2.5 just normal EXO DHF at the front, and some Saint pedals as well. And you can see I've popped a few finishing touches on here. So there's a Bike Yoke Willy on there, and then a couple of marsh guards. I don't usually run one on the back, but just with the shock position I thought it would probably be a good idea. Bottle cage, and then the Kydex down tube protector as well. So that's something that I've made myself on the last couple of bikes, which works well. Bit of frame protection on there. So first up, just to the setup side of things. So with the fork, no tokens in there. I have popped the 2019 Debonair upgrade. Running at the moment around 90 PSI, which I've bumped it up a little bit from 85. Not 100% sure whether I'll stay there. I just need to test it on some bigger hits to see if that's the case. That gives me about 22-23% seated sag, so on the lower end of the spectrum, so it's relatively stiff. Rebounds 9 clicks from fully open, so somewhere in the middle in terms of rebound, and 1 click of low speed compression as well, so very minimal. Apparently these poles don't really need too much low speed. And in terms of the shock, so that also doesn't have any tokens in it. Running around about 27-28% sag, which again is seated sag recommended by Pole. Somewhere around about the 225 PSI mark gives me that sag, and rebound is quite quick, a lot quicker than what I've previously had it on other bikes, I guess. Around about 8 clicks from fully open is the critical damping point. So yeah, it's interesting just because previously I've had to use a lot of rebound damping on a rear shock, but for whatever reason this frame tends to not require as much, which is good. And it hasn't bucked me yet on any jumps, so that's a good thing. So in terms of other setup, so tyres, so at the front, usually run around 26 PSI, and the rear somewhere around 31. And in terms of the weight with everything, so that's including the bottle cage, mud guards, the protector that I made myself, and then these Saint pedals as well. At the moment she's sitting at about 16.5 kilos, so definitely not a lightweight. But then again, in terms of the size of the bike and everything that's on here, definitely looking good. So a couple of things. So pedaling uphill, really quite surprising, even though it's 16.5 kilos, really surprised me. So Very central position. You don't get any bob, so for me, with this Charger damper here, I haven't actually had to lock it out yet, really, unless you get a really, really steep climb up a fire road or something like that, and you're out of the saddle. There's no real reason at all to pop it on pedal or firm. And for the rear, very minimal pedal bob on there as well. So I think I've used this switch once, but it's not even worth it, to be perfectly honest. So it's really, really good. Downhill though, first of all, for me being 6'6", I had to adjust to not hanging off the back, because quite typically when I've been descending on other bikes, I've probably been back here somewhere, which means very minimal weight at the front. So that's something that's been good, because it obviously fits me a heck of a lot more, being 540 reach, I think this one is. So it's a huge reach on it. So that was different. The slack head angle and the steep seat angle obviously help as well. So 64-degree head angle at the front and something like 76 or 78 degrees at the back. Just found that the seat gets further out of the way quicker because of the seat angle. So that's also been really helpful in terms of the descending side of things. What I have sort of noticed is that on the straights it just absolutely plows, given it's got 29-inch wheels on it. Yeah, unbelievable how quick it just plows through. Tight switchbacks was something that I thought was probably going to test it a little bit, given it's such a long bike. Something like 1355 wheelbase, so it's really, really long. In fact, when you pop it up on the back wheel, it's higher than what I am, so it's over 2 meters high in terms of from one end to the other. Unbelievable how it went through tight switchbacks. I was staggered, to be honest. Whether that's a head angle thing, I'm not quite sure, but yeah, just unbelievable how it went through there. And jumping, I've never really been much of a jumper, and my technique isn't fantastic with it either, something that I'm still working on, but it's just so confidence inspiring jumping this thing. You don't feel like you're gonna get bucked every time, even though it's got quite a quick rebound at the rear. You can preload nicely into jumps and it just pops you really, really nicely. So I found that quite confidence inspiring, which is good. So just to break it down in terms of, for me, how well this has gone so far. So first ride, took it to our local trails, bike park, if you will, at Fox Creek in Adelaide here, and managed to PB 3 different segments down there. So 3 of the main black runs at Long, which I also saw a roo on, or a couple of roos on, so that would have held me up a little bit. Lone Gum and Muppets, managed to PB all 3 of those, which was staggering because 3 of those have been race runs down there as well on my old bike on the Trance. So quite interesting to see how quick that went on the first run when I hadn't even set it up yet. And then a couple of really local trails for me are Twisted Gum and Horsnells. So Twisted Gum managed to wipe off 12 seconds off my PB from prior. Did make a couple of mistakes though on there. So the one gripe I had about this was the seat post clamp wasn't quite as tight as what I wanted it initially. I've found that I've had to tighten up the preload quite a bit. So the seat twisted a little bit, had to stop, adjust that, and then I knocked my knees on the handlebars as well, or my knee on the handlebar, and it just twisted them on the steerer tube, so I had to stop and adjust that. So if I hadn't had those couple of things happen, I reckon I'd be up towards 20 or 30 seconds on there easily already. And I've only had a couple of runs down there with this. And then Horsnell Gully as well, which is quite steep, quick. Just the bottom section where it gets really quite steep. I've managed to wipe off 45 seconds on this thing before. So the amount of confidence that I've got in my bike going down there now is quite unbelievable compared to the Trance. And even with the Trance previously, it felt like I was probably getting to the point where I felt like I was pushing it to a point where I couldn't go any quicker. So to be able to wipe another 45 seconds off so far on this and still dialing everything in is pretty satisfying so far. So yeah, so I think this has probably dragged on a bit too long, so I'll probably cap it there. But hopefully, in terms of a first thoughts, I plan on doing like a mid-term review and then a long-term review on it as well. So initially, really happy. Absolutely stoked I actually got a bike now that fits me in terms of length and height. So if you're thinking about it, for any tall guys out there, go for it.